Success is something we all want, isn't it? But here's what most people overlook. Success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. Think about it. The more you run after success, the more it seems to run away from you. Chasing it often leaves you exhausted, frustrated, and wondering why it always slips through your fingers. But when you focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts success, something shifts. You no longer have to chase it. Success comes looking for you. So let me ask you, what kind of person are you becoming? Because that's where it all begins. Becoming someone who attracts success starts with character, shaping your habits, sharpening your mindset, and committing to growth. Success is drawn to certain qualities: discipline, perseverance, generosity, integrity. It gravitates toward people who add value, people who live with intention, people who have vision, and that vision begins with goals. You cannot attract success without clear, compelling goals. Without a destination, you wander, and wandering never leads to greatness. Success doesn't come to the drifter. It comes to the one who knows where they're going and is willing to pay the price to get there. And yes, there is a price. It's called time, effort, discipline, and sacrifice. But before you can pay that price, you must start with the first step: clarity. If I asked you right now, what's your goal for the next 5 years? Could you answer with certainty? Could you tell me something clear, specific, and powerful? Because if you can't, I can promise you this: you won't attract success. Clarity leads to focus. Focus drives action, and action creates results. Now, don't misunderstand me. The path isn't easy. In fact, it almost never is. But if you know where you're going, every challenge becomes part of the journey forward. Success comes to those who are willing to take consistent, disciplined action, especially when it gets tough. And believe me, it will get tough. But here's the truth: tough times don't last. Tough people do. That's why it's so important to become a person who attracts success. You must grow tougher, wiser, more resilient. The bigger your goals, the bigger your obstacles. But those obstacles aren't there to stop you. They're there to shape you, to make you stronger. I remember when I was 25 years old. I was broke, nothing in my pocket, nothing in the bank, and not much hope for the future. But then I met a man who became my mentor, Mr. Shoaff, and he told me something that changed everything. Jim, if you want things to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. That struck me like a thunderbolt. I had been waiting for my circumstances to change, but what I learned was this: it wasn't about my circumstances. It was about me. I was the problem, but I was also the solution. So I began working on myself. I read books, I listened to seminars, I sought out mentors, I built new habits, and slowly things began to change because I was changing. When I changed, opportunities showed up. When I changed, the people in my life changed. When I changed, everything changed. It all started with me, and it will all start with you. If you want to attract success, you must build habits that align with it. Because your future is written in your daily habits. Intentions don't shape your destiny. Habits do. You can want to be fit, but if your habit is eating junk and skipping the gym, you won't get there. The same is true for success. You can't expect to live an extraordinary life if your habits are ordinary. Successful people practice success habits. They read, they plan, they take action. They review their progress. They wake up early. They stay focused. And above all, they are consistent. Consistency is the magic ingredient. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do daily. Anyone can get excited for a week, but can you stay disciplined for months, for years? Because that's where the breakthrough happens in the long game. And beneath it all is one more critical piece: your mindset. Your mindset is the soil where everything grows. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, fear, or limiting beliefs, you'll choke out the seeds of success before they ever sprout. But if you believe, truly believe, that you can become the kind of person who attracts success, you've already laid the foundation. Belief alone isn't enough, but it is the starting point. You must believe your future can be better than your past. You must believe you're capable of becoming more than you are today. Because if you don't believe it, no one else will. You've probably heard the saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And it's true. Your mindset doesn't just influence your life, it creates it. If you believe you're stuck, you'll stay stuck. But if you believe you can grow, then growth becomes inevitable. That's why becoming a person who attracts success begins with one powerful step: transforming your mindset. So how do you do it? You start by feeding your mind with the right information. Because your mind is like a sponge. It absorbs whatever you allow around it. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, pessimism, gossip, and fear, don't be surprised when your thoughts and actions reflect the same. But if you fill your mind with positivity, wisdom, and encouragement, if you read books that inspire you, listen to voices that challenge you, and spend time with people who lift you higher, your thinking will change. And when your thinking changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, your results change. It's inevitable. That's why your relationships matter so much. The people you spend the most time with have a direct influence on who you become. If your circle is negative, unmotivated, and content with mediocrity, you'll feel weighed down. But if your circle is ambitious, growth-minded, and supportive, they'll pull you forward. There's an old saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And it's true. You become like the people you spend the most time with. So take a look at your circle. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they people who inspire you, who believe in you, who hold you to a higher standard? Or are they people who drain your energy and distract you from your goals? Now, I'm not saying you need to cut everyone out of your life, but I am saying you must be intentional about who you allow to influence you. Every relationship is like a force, either lifting you up or pulling you down. There's no neutral ground. I learned this lesson early in my own journey. When I started working on myself, reading books, listening to seminars, talking about personal growth, I noticed something interesting. Some of my old friends stopped calling. They weren't interested in the books I was reading or the conversations I wanted to have about success, vision, or big ideas. And that's when I realized not everyone is meant to go with you on your journey to success. Some people will stay where they are, and that's okay. But if you want to move forward, you must be willing to let go of relationships that hold you back. When I began spending time with my mentor, Mr. Shoaff, he introduced me to a whole new circle of people. People who were going somewhere. People who were achieving. People who thought big. And let me tell you, that changed everything. Because here's the truth. When you change your circle, you change your future. I remember the first time I truly noticed the difference in how successful people thought, how they acted, how they carried themselves. They weren't careless. They weren't scattered. They were disciplined. They were focused. They were generous. They were optimistic. And most of all, they believed in abundance, not scarcity. That kind of thinking, it rubs off on you. When I began spending time with them, I started to think differently myself. My vision stretched. My dreams got bigger. My actions became more purposeful. Why? Because I was in the company of people who were already living the kind of life I wanted to live. So let me ask you something. Who are you learning from? Who are you modeling your life after? Because here's the truth. Success leaves clues. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The path has already been walked by others. If you want to achieve success, find people who have done it before you. Study them. Listen to them. Watch how they live. That's what I did with my mentor, Mr. Shoaff. I didn't just hear his words. I watched his habits. I observed how he treated people. I paid attention to how he spent his time. I listened to his advice and I followed his example. And that one decision to model myself after someone further along than me changed the entire trajectory of my life. Now let's talk about value. If you want to attract success, you must become a person of value. Success doesn't flow toward people who merely take up space. It flows toward people who add something meaningful to the world. And here's the key. The more value you add, the more success you attract. So what does it mean to add value? It means solving problems. It means helping others. It means giving more than you take. The most successful people I've ever known are problem solvers. They don't show up with complaints. They show up with solutions. They don't say, here's why it won't work. They say, here's how we can make it work. They see opportunities where others only see obstacles. So I challenge you to ask yourself, how can I add more value? How can I solve bigger problems? How can I contribute more to my workplace, to my business, to my family, to my community? Because when you become a person of value, people seek you out. Opportunities begin to find you. Why? Because the world always rewards those who contribute more than they consume. And don't forget this, the size of your success is directly proportional to the size of the problems you solve. Solve small problems, you'll have small success. Solve big problems, you'll attract big success. But being a person of value isn't only about solving external problems, it's also about strengthening your inner self, your integrity, your character, your ethics. The people who attract lasting success are the ones who live by their values. They don't cut corners. They don't cheat. They don't deceive. They operate with integrity because trust is the foundation of all success. If people can't trust you, you may enjoy some short-term wins, but they won't last. Lasting success is built on trust. One time, Mr. Shoaff told me something I'll never forget. He said, Jim, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And he was right. If you cut corners in one area of your life, that attitude will spill over into other areas. If you're dishonest in one small thing, dishonesty will creep into everything else. You cannot compartmentalize your character. So if you want to become a person who attracts success, start with the little things. Are you keeping your promises? Are you following through on commitments? Are you doing your best even when nobody is watching? Because it's in those small daily choices that your character is built. And your character, that's what ultimately attracts or repels success. Now let's turn to one of the most important qualities of all, discipline. Without discipline, you simply won't go far. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your achievements. Discipline is the ability to keep going when the excitement wears off. It's the strength to stick to your plan even when distractions show up. And believe me, they always will. There will always be a reason to quit early. There will always be a temptation to take the easy road. But discipline keeps you steady. Discipline whispers, stay the course. There will always be things trying to pull you off course. Distractions, temptations, easy exits. But discipline is what keeps you steady. It's the anchor that holds you in place when the winds of life try to push you off balance. Discipline is what separates the winners from the quitters, the achievers from the dreamers, the successful from the unsuccessful. You see, most people quit when things get tough. They let their emotions make the decision. But those who attract success, they keep going. They push forward when it isn't easy. They stay true to their plan even when they don't feel like it. Because success isn't about feelings, it's about principles. It's about doing the right thing day in and day out, whether you feel inspired or not. Now I'll be honest with you, discipline didn't come naturally to me. Maybe it doesn't come naturally to you either. And that's okay, because discipline is not a gift you're born with. It's a muscle, and muscles can be trained. The more you practice discipline, the stronger it gets. Every decision you make with discipline adds strength to that muscle. Skip the workout, weakens it. Push through and go, strengthens it. Put off the project, weakens it. Finish it despite being tired, strengthens it. And here's the beautiful thing, it doesn't start with giant sacrifices. It starts small. Wake up 30 minutes earlier, choose the salad instead of the burger, finish that one lingering task you've been avoiding. Each small victory compounds over time until discipline becomes your lifestyle. But remember this, discipline is more than productivity, it's self-respect. When you discipline yourself to do what you know you should do, you're sending yourself a message, I'm worth it. My goals are worth it. My future is worth it. And once you respect yourself enough to stay disciplined, others will see it, and they will respect you too. That's another hidden secret of success. People are drawn to those who live with standards, who refuse to settle for mediocrity. So if you want to attract success, raise your standards. Expect more from yourself than anyone else does. Hold yourself to a higher code, and you'll start to see the difference in your results. Now let's move to a principle that goes hand in hand with discipline, patience. My friends, success is not an overnight miracle. It's a process. We live in a world of instant gratification, instant communication, instant food, instant access to information. But let me tell you this, real success is never instant. It's like planting a seed. You don't put it in the soil today and expect a tree tomorrow. No, you water it, you nurture it, you give it sunlight, and you give it time. It grows unseen before it grows seen. The roots go deep before the branches go high. That's how success works. Unseen effort first, visible results later. And patience doesn't mean sitting back and waiting. Patience means you keep working, you keep improving, you keep building, even when results aren't showing yet. Because every day you're patient enough to keep planting and watering, you're one step closer to the harvest. Too many people quit in the middle. They stop watering right before the seed was about to sprout. Don't let that be you. Patience belongs to those who trust the process, who understand that growth takes time, and that nothing truly valuable happens overnight. But patience alone isn't enough. Because while patience waits, persistence keeps moving. Persistence is the determination to continue, no matter what. And let me tell you, life will test you. There will be obstacles. There will be failures. There will be moments where you doubt yourself. Moments where you wonder if it's all worth it. I've been there. We've all been there. But here's the truth. Persistence always pays off. Not sometimes, always. Because persistence wears down resistance. It outlasts opposition. It turns stumbling blocks into stepping stones. That's why success is not reserved for the most talented or the most intelligent. It's reserved for the most persistent. So here's my encouragement to you. Don't stop. Stay disciplined, stay patient, stay persistent, because those three qualities together form a triangle of success that cannot be broken. And let me pause here for a moment. If this message is speaking to you, if it's reminding you of the importance of patience, persistence, or discipline in your own life, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what lesson hit home for you. And if this message has given you hope, or a reminder you needed today, go ahead and give it a like. It helps spread the message to more people who need it too. But most importantly, keep listening, because we're just getting started. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't often comes down to just one thing: persistence. Think about it. Success doesn't always belong to the smartest person in the room. It doesn't always belong to the most talented, or even the one with the best opportunities. No, it usually belongs to the one who refuses to quit, the one who gets knocked down and says, "That's not the end of me. I'll get up again." Persistence is the secret thread that weaves through every success story you've ever heard. So let me ask you, are you willing to fail on your way to success? Are you willing to try, stumble, adjust, and keep moving forward, even when it doesn't go as planned? Because I'll tell you right now, if you're not willing to persist, if you're only willing to try when it's convenient, you won't attract lasting success. The truth is, you've got to be resilient. You've got to have grit. You've got to be willing to pick yourself up every single time life knocks you down. Success doesn't go to the person who never falls. It goes to the person who refuses to stay down. So when life hits you hard, and it will, dust yourself off, straighten your shoulders, and step forward again. That's the formula.
That's how you attract success. But let me make something clear about persistence. It's not just about working harder and harder. Persistence without direction is like running full speed on a treadmill. Lots of sweat, no progress. The key is persistence with purpose. It's not about mindless repetition. It's about focused determination. It's about sticking to the goal while being flexible with the approach. Sometimes, the problem isn't that you're not working hard enough. It's that you're not working smart enough. Sometimes, persistence means trying a new method, seeking new knowledge, or asking for help. So don't confuse persistence with stubbornness. Success doesn't come to those who just keep pushing the same rock up the same hill the same way. It comes to those who say, if the rock won't move this way, let me try another angle. That's the beauty of persistence paired with adaptability. When I started in business, I had this picture in my mind of how everything would unfold. I thought, if I just worked harder, doors would open automatically. But you know what? They didn't. There were times when my strategy failed. Times when my business didn't grow the way I wanted. Times when I thought, maybe this isn't for me. And I had two choices. I could keep stubbornly doing what wasn't working, or I could adapt. Thank goodness, I chose to adapt. I learned new ways to market, new ways to connect with people, new ways to manage my time and resources, and that willingness to adjust, to stay flexible while staying committed. That's what made all the difference. Success didn't arrive the way I first imagined. It came because I was willing to change. So ask yourself this, when life throws you a curveball, are you rigid or are you flexible? When your plan falls apart, do you collapse with it or do you build a new one? Because the truth is, life rarely goes exactly as planned. The road is filled with detours, delays, and surprises. And those who succeed are not the ones who face no obstacles. They're the ones who refuse to be stopped by them. Now let me give you another powerful principle, one of the most underestimated, but most transformative of all, the power of a positive attitude. If you want to attract success, you cannot afford to walk around with a negative mindset. I'm not talking about blind optimism or pretending everything is sunshine and roses. No, I'm talking about a mindset that sees opportunities where others see problems. A positive attitude doesn't ignore reality. It chooses to focus on solutions. It chooses to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. It chooses to say, yes, I failed, but I also learned, and that makes me stronger. Now let me pause right here, because I want to bring you in. What about you? Has persistence or adaptability played a role in your journey? Have you ever looked back and realized that the very thing you thought was a failure was actually the doorway to your growth? If so, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below, because when you share your journey, it doesn't just encourage you, it encourages someone else who may be listening and thinking, I don't know if I can keep going. So if this message resonates with you, let us know below. And if it's given you a spark of hope, give it a like. It'll help more people hear what you just heard. But most importantly, don't just listen. Apply it. Stay persistent, stay adaptable, and guard your attitude, because those three together form the soil where success grows. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful forces you will ever carry with you in life, your attitude. The way you choose to see the world. Because make no mistake, friends, attitude is not just some nice little bonus you tack onto your personality. Attitude is the foundation of how you experience life, how people experience you, and how opportunities find you. You've heard it said that your attitude determines your altitude, and that's true. Where others see problems, the person with a positive attitude sees possibilities. Where others see roadblocks, they see detours that lead to new destinations. Where others see failure, they see feedback. And here's the secret. Success doesn't always come to the person with the most talent, or even the most resources. But very often, it comes to the person who chooses to stay positive when most others quit. Think about it. A positive attitude is like a magnet. It attracts people. It attracts opportunities. It attracts ideas. But a negative attitude, that repels everything good, just like weeds crowding out flowers in a garden. Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm not talking about fake smiles and blind optimism. No, what I'm talking about is a deep decision, a choice to look for solutions instead of staring at problems. Let me tell you a little story. Early in my career, I was struggling in business. Things were not going according to plan. Bills were stacking up, and I had plenty of reasons to complain. But a mentor told me, Jim, you'll never complain your way to success. That line stuck with me. So I started to ask a different set of questions. Not why is this happening to me, but instead, what can I learn from this? What can I change about myself? What opportunity is hidden in this problem? And you know what? The problems didn't disappear overnight, but I became stronger, sharper, more creative, and eventually those very challenges turned into stepping stones. So let me ask you, what about you? When life hands you a difficulty, do you sink into negativity, or do you train your mind to look for the lesson? Because that decision right there will determine so much of your future. Now, let's go a step further. If you want to build and keep a positive attitude, start with gratitude. Yes, gratitude is the seed of positivity. If you wake up every day and focus only on what's missing, on what's broken, on what you lack, you'll always feel defeated. But if you wake up and count your blessings, your health, your family, your skills, your opportunities, your very breath, you start to see life as full, abundant, and worth fighting for. Here's a little exercise for you. Every single day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. 3 things, big or small. And just watch what happens over time. Your outlook changes, your energy rises, and suddenly you start to notice even more things to appreciate. Gratitude creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities. And let me tell you this, a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. Now, let's add another pillar, personal responsibility. If you want to attract success, you must take 100% responsibility for your life. Not 50%, not 80%, 100%. That means no more excuses, no more blaming your past, your boss, the economy, your spouse, your parents. Because here's the truth, the moment you blame, you hand over your power. But when you take responsibility, you take that power back. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond. And I'll tell you something, it's not what happens to you that determines your success, it's what you do about what happens. I've seen 2 people face the same challenge. One grows bitter, the other grows better. One complains, the other learns. One blames, the other adapts. Who do you think attracts success? Exactly, the person who owns their choices, their responses, their results. And that's what I want for you. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, no more excuses. If there's something you want in your life, own it, take responsibility, and go after it. Because when you do, you unlock your true potential.
And before we move on, let me just say this. If this part of the message has hit home for you, if it's reminded you that your attitude and responsibility are the real keys to success, then I'd love for you to share that down in the comments. Tell me what stood out to you. And if this is encouraging you so far, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey. All right, let's keep building. Here's the truth, my friends. Success doesn't come to the person who waits for life to get easier. It doesn't fall into your lap because the timing feels right. It comes to the person who creates the circumstances that lead to success. Life doesn't respond to wishful thinking. Life responds to action, determination, personal accountability. Now let me be very clear. This isn't about beating yourself up when things go wrong. No, it's about owning the outcome, learning from it, and moving forward. If you fail, and you will fail from time to time, don't waste energy looking for someone to blame. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What could I have done differently? How can I improve next time? That's what personal responsibility looks like. When I started my journey, I made a lot of mistakes, far more than I can count. But I learned early on that blaming others never helped me grow. I remember one of my early business ventures. Things weren't going well, and it was so tempting to blame the market, the economy, even the people I worked with. But then I had a moment of clarity. I realized that if I wanted to get anywhere, I had to own my results, the good and the bad. Once I did that, everything changed. I stopped waiting for circumstances to improve, and I started improving myself. And here's the key. Personal responsibility leads to personal empowerment. The more responsibility you take for your life, the more power you have to change it. And that, my friends, is where success is truly attracted. When you are in control of your actions, your decisions, your future, there's no power in blame, but there's tremendous power in accountability. So let me ask you again, how much responsibility are you willing to take for your own success? Because that will determine exactly how far you go. Now let me make this clear. Taking responsibility doesn't mean doing it all alone. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking success means going it solo. No, you need people, mentors, a team, a support system. Taking responsibility means you are in charge of finding the right people, building the right relationships, putting yourself in the right environments. You must actively seek out those connections that will help you grow. And that brings me to another point I want to emphasize. If you want to attract success, you must be selective about the people you allow into your life. We've talked about this before. Your relationships are powerful. They either lift you up or hold you back. So you have to be intentional about your associations. Choose people who inspire you, who challenge you, who push you toward your goals, not away from them. Surround yourself with influences that reflect the person you want to become. Because the truth is, you will start becoming like the people you spend the most time with. And remember this, personal responsibility isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's about creating the right environment for success to naturally gravitate toward you. That's how you take control of your life, your growth, and your success. Show me the people you spend the most time with, and I'll show you your future. If you're surrounding yourself with negative, small-minded, or toxic individuals, it's going to be nearly impossible to attract success. But if you surround yourself with positive, ambitious, forward-thinking people who are striving for success themselves, you'll naturally start to rise to their level. There's an old phrase I love, iron sharpens iron. It means when you spend time with people who are sharp, motivated, and driven, they make you sharper too. They challenge you to think bigger, raise your standards, and step up your game. That's why it's so important to be mindful of your circle. Success is not a solo journey. It's a journey where you need to be surrounded by people who inspire you, challenge you, and hold you accountable to your potential. Now here's another key principle for attracting success: contribution. It might sound counterintuitive, but if you want to attract success, you have to focus on giving, not just getting. Success isn't about what you can take from the world, it's about what you can give. The more you contribute, the more value you bring to others, the more success you will naturally attract. That's just how life works. You've probably heard it before. You reap what you sow. If you sow generosity, kindness, and value, you'll reap success, abundance, and fulfillment. The people who attract the most success are the ones who constantly ask themselves, how can I serve? How can I help? How can I make a difference? They aren't focused on what they can get. They're focused on what they can give. And in giving, they create an environment where success flows naturally toward them. Think about the most successful businesses in the world. What do they all have in common? They solve problems, provide value, and meet needs. They focus on giving the best possible service or product to their customers, and because of that focus on giving, they attract incredible success. The same principle applies to your life. If you want to attract success, focus on how you can add value to the lives of others. When you do that, you'll find success starts chasing after you. Now you might wonder, how do I start contributing more? It doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It starts with small acts of kindness, showing up fully in your work, and being a positive influence on those around you. It's about looking for ways to serve in whatever capacity you can. Here's the thing, the more you give, the more you grow. Every time you contribute to someone else's life, you grow in wisdom, experience, and character. And that is what attracts success. When you become a person of value, success is drawn to you like a magnet. Let me share a little secret. One of the greatest joys in life is being of service to others. There's something incredibly fulfilling about knowing you've made a positive impact on someone's life, that you've helped someone move closer to their goals or overcome a challenge. That is what gives life meaning. And when your life is filled with meaning and purpose, success becomes a natural byproduct. It's not something you chase, it's something that flows to you because you're living a life of contribution. So, becoming the person who attracts success isn't about chasing something outside yourself. It's about working on the inside, developing the qualities, habits, and mindset that naturally draw success into your life. It's about taking responsibility, being persistent, staying positive, and adding value. When you focus on becoming that kind of person, success will follow. You won't have to chase it, it will find you.